Welcome to episode 4 of the Zooch and Wilde College Football Podcast. And man, it was a pretty good slate, Zooch. I'm not gonna lie. It I had a good time. It was one of those ones where I think none of the matchups really stood out. Maybe before the week, there was a couple good ones. Obviously, the Alabama Texas one, but I feel like we got some good football this week.
We did. I didn't get to see it, like sit down and watch a ton of the games because I was at the Boise State game. But I was able to watch a lot of that Colorado game, some of the Ole Miss game. I didn't really see any of the Alabama Texas game. Just got like updates through people at the game because there's
Hmm.
not so great service in the stadium. But yeah, there was a lot of
Yeah,
underrated, I would say,
yeah.
games that.
I guess before we touch on some of the more nationally recognized games, you wanna give your quick thoughts, initial thoughts after the BSU game? I mean, you being there, just a quick little
Yeah, I mean, it was
1 minute 1 minute man right here.
you go into the game hoping that they fix some things, and on the first play of the game, they have like a 60-yard pass down to our 10-yard line, like right over the safeties. And you just, at that point, I was like, I didn't think we were going to win going in, and score is a little deceiving. I don't know if you saw the highlights of it, but
I did. It was
UCF
two
dropped.
interceptions in the red zone that could have been
Yeah,
touchdowns.
and it wasn't like it was a battle for the ball. The second one specifically, the man
Yeah.
juggled it like a hot potato and just threw it to our team. So, another game of allowing over 500 points, 500 yards of offense.
Whoa.
Another game of our offense, basically if
Yeah.
Ginty scores, we'll be fine. We didn't have
Yeah, I'm
another
gonna
touchdown. I mean, we aren't looking great on offense. Nobody's looking good on offense besides Genty. No one on defense, period, is looking good. We have a good
I think
punter.
I thought DJ I think DJ Schramm has been looking okay. I think he's been making plays to his ability. I think he plays his ability. There's definitely some speed in the pass game with him, but I think on a Mountain West team, you shouldn't be having to rely on your middle linebacker to make plays in the passing game. Am I
Oh no,
wrong?
but it just they got torched again, basically through the air. It wasn't 500 yards, whatever Michael Penix passed for, but it was almost 300 yards rushing and 300 yards passing. So it's like I think they had like 160 or so more yards than us. So the score looked a lot closer than what the game actually felt like. There was no doubt in my mind that when UCF got the ball back, they were going to go down and score because I'm pretty sure they had punted like one time up until that
Yeah,
moment. So
it is
0
what it
2,
is.
not looking
I mean,
great.
we lost to Gus Magoo. Hey, I will say though, John Reese Plumley, the blue takes no prisoners. He's out for like 3 weeks now. We obviously wish him the health and what he like. We wish his health and we wish that he gets better. I just find it so funny that the guy who torches us all games, pretty much the reason we lose, the quarterback for UCF, just like couldn't handle the AstroTurf or the whatever concrete slab that they play on in Albertson Stadium.
Yeah, it was just the same old, same old. Nothing changed much from week one other than it was more even in passing and running that torched the
Yeah.
defense. But we can move on. They play North Dakota. We'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
We will see. Is as you see in your name, if the people watching on the video, afraid of North Dakota. I think that's what a lot of Bronco Nation is feeling right now. But let's actually get to some good games, or at least some nationally recognized games. Nebraska, Texas, Alabama. We're gonna do Texas, Alabama. You surprised me. We're gonna do a little SEC ball first. Quinn Ewers looks legit, man. He cut the mullet off. Maturity.
See, and I didn't see a ton of. I saw like highlights of this game, but I didn't get. It started, I think, at the same time ours did. Maybe
It
this one
did, yeah. It
started at
was it
five
was the four
thirty.
thirty. It was the 4:30 Pacific time. I guess I'm on Pacific time.
So I didn't see really any of it because there was no service in there. Our game was close in score, so I was like paying attention to that. You can't stream anything in the stadium because the signal's so bad. So I didn't really see. I would see like 13-6 Texas, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Alabama take the lead at one point in the fourth quarter, and then Texas just kind of took control from there?
I don't
Or did Alabama never lead?
It was I don't think, in the fourth quarter is when I stopped watching because, as we'll get into in later, I walked into the Cal Auburn game, which was a we'll get into that later. But yeah, so I only watched the first three quarters and I watched a little bit of the highlights that they showed in the stadium. I remember I think the last play I remember watching was that moon ball that Quinn Ewers threw to the
I
Texas
could
receiver,
see that.
the absolute moon ball. And I mean, if you're Texas, I looked at Texas' schedule. Besides Oklahoma, I don't think they play a ranked team. Maybe K State, but if you're a Texas fan, like when you see a ranked K State, it might as well be unranked. I mean, it is a little bit of the arrogance that Texas has, but I'm looking at their schedule. I think their toughest road game is TCU or like Texas Tech.
They
I mean,
will.
when you
When do
when
they
you
play
when you
Texas
look at their
Tech? That's the game they'll lose, like
last game of the
55
year,
to
you
40.
last game of
They'll
the year, you
lose.
think that'll blow their?
Is it like
You're,
on Good or Black Friday? Is that what day it's
it's
on?
the last week of the college football season. Is
I
Texas
could just
Tech versus Texas in Lubbock?
I could just see that game being like Black Friday. For some reason, it starts at like 10 o'clock at night, and
Yeah. Quinn Ewers
everyone
throws
has
like
to wake
two
them up.
interceptions in the third quarter or something like
Yeah,
that.
Texas Tech takes like a 3-score lead, and Texas is battling back the whole time and comes up just short at the end of it. I could see that happening with Texas.
But yeah, Texas looked really good. Their offense looked like a playoff offense to me. They looked like they had some explosion. They had that freshman running, but they got like 4 running backs who could probably start at 95% of the colleges in this country. On the Alabama side, it's so weird because Alabama's a team that's probably has a 50-50 shot at still making like a New Year's Six bowl, like the Peach Bowl or something. And like just the standard that Alabama's had over the last decade, like that feels like a drop off. And
Yeah,
when you saw with Bryce Young, his teams last year, they had a number one quarterback, the number one overall pick, and they didn't make the playoffs. Now we're seeing them with a quarterback who's not as good as Bryce Young. And I think Jalen Milroe is good. I do. I think he's better than Ty Pick Six Buckner that they picked up from Notre Dame. I think Jalen Milroe is a great player or can be a great player. I think right now he's just a very good player. But right now they're just very good. And I know it sounds so. I know a lot of teams in the country would love to be. Oh, I'd kill to be very good. But when you're Alabama, you're supposed to be elite, and you're used
yeah,
to
you
being
want to win the
elite.
national
So that's why
title
when you
every year.
see especially when Texas in the hype machine, and oh, speaking of the hype machine, Sark is probably on the kegerator machine, pounding cold ones after this one. Anyway, but no, I think Alabama, they're very good, and it feels so weird to slight a team by calling them very good. But like I said, when they're used to being elite, very good seems like a two-step drop off.
Oh, it does for them because I mean, how many in the past? If you go back to 2010, we'll say a little over a decade. How many years have they been in the national title or been one or two plays from being in the national title? Saban's won how many there? 6, I think.
I think 5. No, because he had the Colt McCoy year. He went double McCarron.
He won 3 with AJ McCarron.
No, he went double McCarron.
They won in against LSU, and then they
So
beat Notre Dame that
Texas,
year.
LSU, Notre Dame.
Maybe
Then they
McCarron
had,
was. Then they lost
then
to Auburn,
and then my favorite national champion, the Jake Coker year.
Jake Coker.
The Jake Coker year, and then they had the
201.
the 201, and then 6. They had the Mac Jones COVID.
Okay,
So
so they won 6, and then you had the
I
kick
think the
6.
Jake Coker one should count for 2. Jake Coker winning the national champ. That people in the NFL talk about Trent Dilfer winning a Super Bowl. Imagine if Trent Dilfer's like backup won a Super Bowl. That's what Jake Coker winning a national championship was like. I just remember he just had so much acne on his chin, and he had the Justin Bieber haircut. And this man would only throw like play action posts to like Amari Cooper. That's all he threw.
Yeah, it worked for him, and like we were saying, so he won 6, and then he had the kick 6 to Auburn. They kept him out of the national title game. Basically, that could have been a 7th one, and there was another one that they
had the Clemson last-minute touchdown.
But yeah, the Clemson touchdown.
Some people
with
say that was their
left.
best team too. Some people say that was their best team. That's the Minka Fitzpatrick, Reuben Foster, Jalen Hurts. Who's the D-line, Jonathan Allen, I think was it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
Jonathan
was like,
Allen.
yeah, they say that was his best team, and they lost.
Right. So you have, if you look back on them, they have 8, probably more. I'm sure we're forgetting one that a couple seasons that they were a play or two from the national title. So you won 6 in the last 12 years. So one every
Mhm.
2 years. You could have played an 8 or 9, and to be 1-1, and basically you'd have to win out the rest of the year to have a shot at the national title. And you don't really look like you're a team that's going to
I
win
mean,
out.
the SEC West does look a little weak, though. I mean,
Uh,
the SEC.
Brian
Oh, no,
Kelly's not
they're in
going.
the East. Are they?
No,
No, they're in the West.
they're West, yeah.
They're West.
So I mean, they could. I mean, I think people are probably writing them off a little bit too early. Like Alabama's lost early in the season before and
Mhm.
come back and won the national title. That's not. I don't think any team with like. I mean, Michigan, you haven't really seen play anybody all that great. Yeah, they lost. They did lose to Texas, but who you are in week 2 and who you are at the end of the season can be a drastic difference. So I don't think people should write them off yet. But yeah, I do agree with you that it does kind of feel like another Peach Bowl type season where they will have 10 or 11 wins, but not be in the playoff, not win the national title, and it'll be kind of
Yeah.
it
I
will
will
be in their
say,
minds okay.
yeah. The last thing I'll say about that is God help whoever they have to play in the Peach Bowl. It's gonna be it's gonna be like the Big Ten runner-up, like Iowa, and it's gonna get the crap kicked out of them. Moving on
So,
to the game that I was most excited to watch for in the morning slate was the Colorado Nebraska game, and I don't know if you guys saw my name earlier, but the phrase of this game is Jeff Sims needs to stop. He is a domestic terrorist that is hurting Nebraska football wise. He is a football terrorist because he has single-handedly sabotaged this football team. I mean, I was laughing about it with Zooch. Zooch, you texted me, and there was a point where Gus Johnson, after Jeff Sims throws the pick at the end of the first half, and he goes, "They need to find a new quarterback. This guy's costing them football games." And there is to see Gus Johnson that mad was just so indicative to how I think every Nebraska fan's feeling. Jeff Sims, it's a guy who was average at Georgia Tech. I think he got stats padded a little bit, playing some bad ACC competition. I think it's just like, and the part about Jeff Sims is that you see his natural talent. Like you see the arm strength. You see when like the running touchdown he had. He's so athletic. I don't think at this moment in his football career he knows how to read a complex defense. I honestly don't.
yeah,
Some of the
there's
throws
times
he
that he would.
makes blows my mind, and that's why I think like I can't even sit here and say he's bad. Like sabotage is the best phrase because sometimes he'll make 3 good throws in a row, then goes triple coverage, phew, right into a linebacker. It's ridiculous. If I was a Nebraska fan, I'd be furious.
Yeah, they have a. It's gonna be interesting to see if they end up benching him because he did not look that good against Minnesota. He definitely didn't look. I mean, there's flashes where he looks good, like that 70-yard touchdown run. You're like, oh Jesus, like this guy can move, but he has what 4 or 5 turnovers in 2 games. I mean, you can't have that if you're trying to win the game. It's if he was a freshman, I would somewhat understand it, but the guy's what a graduate senior, I think. He's up there. He was at Georgia Tech a while. I know that.
He
So
was.
it'll
Don't know that he might. He probably has one more year, but I just don't think. I think Nebraska needs. It's so hard to not be overreactive, especially when it's a long-term haul like Nebraska has. It's so hard to
right.
not get overreactive, but I think this is an overreactive move. I would personally make. I think you need to make. Like Jeff Sims is just not, and unless Jeff Sims is the best guy in the locker room, like they'll follow him to death. But if he's just like an average leader, I think you need to give someone a shot, even if that means giving like a redshirt freshman reps. Like at some point, you're just like, man, we got to build, and Matt Rule's got to get his recruits in playing his system. It just, I'm so glad I'm not a Nebraska fan. I'm wearing the red, go Big Red, but I don't know. It's ridiculous. On Colorado though, look pretty good. Shadir
Yeah,
Sanders, I mean Heisman. I don't know. I don't
he
know.
is
I do want
living
to
it
see
up
him
right now.
play. I will say I will laugh so hard because they're gonna drop like 50 points on Colorado State, and then it would be so funny because I find humor in these things, like if they beat Oregon and USC, and then the hype trains at like nonstop, and then they lose to like Arizona State in one of those like 8 o'clock Pacific time start games in Tempe. Like that just seems like where this like
Where
that
it's all
that's
headed.
where my disgusting brain goes.
I mean, yeah, it's the wild thing about it to me is, did you see this coming up week? Game day is there, big noon kickoff is there,
Yeah.
first take is there, and then there's another show that's uh there. They're all there this week, and I don't even know where they're gonna find room for all of these shows. And I don't understand why the big noon
They're there
kickoff
for
is
the
there.
Colorado State game?
No, big noon. I thought big noon kickoff was gonna be
Oh,
at.
yeah, Big Noon was there. Shout out our boy Herb.
But
Our
no,
friend.
they're going back this week. I'm pretty sure. I read a tweet that said they're going back this week, and it's going to be at
Well, I know
Colorado.
sometimes Colorado State and Colorado play at the Broncos Stadium, so maybe that gives them a little bit more space in Denver rather
That's
than the
true.
college town
Yeah,
of Boulder. But who's the coach for Colorado State? It's that one guy who used to be
Jay
at
Norvell. He wears the
that
like.
guy. That guy. He had this like the super like tight in the midsection shirts with like the longest sleeves ever, just
Well,
like
now
always tucked in tight.
he wears like the like if you were to ever see like movie based in the '80s where the dad comes home and grabs a beer and has been working at like the factory all day. He has like a blue factory shirt on and like the white undershirt. That's what he always
He's
wears
dressed like
that
he's in
now.
a Backstreet Boys video.
And he's going up against like the most personable coach in college football right now. So
Yeah.
it might be a what do they? I can't think of what they call that game. It's the battle for something. I'm pretty sure, but it might be a long, long day for
I think that's
our
the one where
Colorado
Jay
State
Norvell's just
brethren.
got. I think that's one where you just got to go. Let's just cover, fellas. Let's just cover. But let's get to the. I mean, is there anything else you want to say on this game? I feel like this is just a Colorado shellacking.
Yeah, it was Colorado after the first quarter, pretty much took over and dominated. So
Well, we're going to touch on the last ranked versus ranked game. And this is one, if you're not a college football fan, you wouldn't think this. These are two well-known programs in the South, and Ole Miss is known now nationally with Lane Kishin. Hashtag come to the sip. That's a free shout out for Lane, one of my favorite coaches. Tulane, and what I will say about Tulane, I think if their starter was in, they would have won. Is that something that's too bold to say?
I don't think
Because
so. I
it was
mean, I
Kai
think it would have.
Horton in, not their starter. Kai Horton, the backup, was in for Tulane.
Yeah, and I saw a little bit of this game because it started at 1:30, and I saw probably the first half, I would say, and it was weird. I was sitting there with a bunch of friends in one of the bars here, and Ole Miss scored in like 2 plays. I was like, "Good lord!" Like that looked easy, but then Tulane kind of dominated for a while after
They
that. Like,
did.
and Ole Miss could not block for Jackson Dart. They couldn't get the run game going for Quinshawn Juggins. I mean, it was.
Mhm.
I still think it was a good win for Ole Miss. I don't know for a fact that they would have lost, but I don't know that it would have been a seven. It was a weird 17-point win. That didn't feel like Ole Miss had a really.
Well, they got that kick at the end to make it 10, and then Tulane's trying to make a play, so they throw it right to the person. So I mean, yeah, I think that's more of like a 7-point win. That's probably what it feels like to Ole Miss. Just still a great win over a ranked team. I mean, if you swap the Tulane 22 Tulane for 22 Texas A&M, I bet Ole Miss is going, oh man, we're feeling great. I think like that Tulane name, for better or for worse, even though Tulane's a wicked loaded team this year, I think they proved this week they are definitely the cream of the crop of the group of 5 teams. So yeah,
Right,
one
which we
one thing
did.
I found the one thing I found noticeable when I was watching the game is in the offseason for Ole Miss, we're giving Lane Kiffin a lot of crap. It's like, why are you bringing in two like quarterbacks because they brought in Cunningham from Oklahoma State and they brought in someone else. I think I don't know where he was from.
They brought in
For
Spencer Saunders from Oklahoma State.
Spencer, not Cunningham. Spencer Saunders. Thank you for correcting me. Left hand up. Who are we, the Commanders? Left hand up for me. That's on me. But yeah, they brought in those two players, and I think this is the kind of game where you saw. That's why Lane Kiffin brought a little competition because Jackson Dart, he seems like he has it, but then it's like, he's like, you want him to do more, and he's just he's a good quarterback that you just want to be great. But right now, he's just playing good.
Right. Yeah. He's gonna have to, if they want to do some real damage this year, he's gonna have to step up and be the guy in certain moments. And he's been pretty lucky to where, they have Quinshawn Juggins at not Tank Bigsby. The guy that transferred there from TCU last year, Zach.
No, he's in the pros now. Zach Evans went pro.
Okay, yeah, Zach Evans was there last year, right? So he didn't have to, throw for 350 or 400 yards a game last year. He could hand it off to those two, and he could throw for 295, 310, like smaller in today's college football. So this year, I think he will have to have a few of those games where he puts the team on his back and makes plays. But we did forget about one ranked matchup, and I only want to talk about it because
all right, let's get to the slate. Let's get to the slate, baby.
Texas A&M and Miami. Yes. We forgot one more of their coaches. We talked about obviously Bobby the Bike Petrino. Yep. We talked about Jimbo Fisher.
Jim Bob Fisher, as I call him, Jim Bob Cooter Fisher.
And we talked about the defensive coordinator from Maryland.
Yes.
/ Ole Miss, but we're not going to talk about him being an Ole Miss. But I just realized today that guess who else coaches there for the offensive line?
Don't tell me. Can I get two guesses?
You have two guesses.
My first guess is Tom Cable.
No.
Don't tell me. Is it Muschamp?
It is not Muschamp. He's at Georgia.
He's defense. He was at Georgia?
He's at Georgia. No, the coach now is, we have made fun of him before. He coached under Urban. He also coached at Boston College and Colorado State.
Don't tell me who I think it is. Who? Oh my gosh, what's his name? Who is it?
Steve Adazio. He rounds out the four horsemen. Oh, he rounds out the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Can we get a graphic, Sean? If you're here, can we get a graphic on this? The four horsemen of the apocalypse is Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Petrino, Steve Adazio, and who's I keep forgetting the guy that killed the kid at Maryland. The guy who killed the kid at Maryland. Yeah, those are the four horsemen of the apocalypse that are going to bring death to the A&M program.
Giving up 50 to Miami.
Well, yeah, that was another good game. Yes, there it is. Yeah. So, yeah, we got Petrino, Adazio, Jimbo Fisher, and their DC who killed a kid at Maryland. Perfect. And there's one other game of the slate that I really want to get into in depth. Was the Berkeley Auburn game. I had a chance to go to it in person. And if anyone who watches college football a lot knows that Cal is not the best team, and Auburn is kind of like at least the last couple of years, the Harsin years, has been the Cal of the SEC. So I saw some funny stuff in Berkeley, and I wrote some of the stuff down that stuck out to me. So number one, I had a great talk with an Auburn professor who was from Berkeley, and we bonded over Brian Harsin. And then I started talking about Gus Malzahn with him, and his wife stated, Gus Malzahn, great guy, used to support Auburn business. Was terrible what they did to him. That was that was a quote. Second off, I just want to say Cal had it's a great campus at Cal. And the stadium was packed. There was probably about 50,000 people there for a Cal game, which if you know Cal games, they sometimes don't even get 25,000 people. So it was around 50,000. So that stadium was bumping for a Cal night game. This one was funny. So I was at the tailgate at the practice field north of the stadium, and their athletic director gave a speech because how we got the tickets were through family friends, and we got to go to this like separate like alumni like booster like tailgate for Cal, and the the AD started talking, and when they announced him, there was one single guy in in like one of those free golden like Berkeley T-shirts that they give out, and they announced this Cal AD, and he just goes boo, and he's the only guy booing. And the Cal athletic director starts talking, and he's like, we did everything we could to keep the Pac-12 together, and everyone's like, oh yeah. And the guy who boos goes, no, you didn't. It's just him yelling. And then he goes, but we're so excited to join the ACC. And everyone gives a golf clap again. And he goes, boo, as loud as he can again, does the double hand like that, and storms away. Another thing I noticed, is it uniform that every guy fan from Auburn who's over 280 pounds has to wear the Columbia PFG Auburn shirt?
Yes.
Me and
Do
my
they
dad were
also have
talking.
the
Yep,
sunglasses
yep,
with like the
yep. They had the sunglass connector PFG shirt. I don't know how much money Columbia makes at Auburn, but I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean, it was like it was required to become a fan. Like if you are under a certain weight limit, you wear this, and if you're over a certain weight limit, you wear khakis with the Sperry's with the Columbia PFG. Not that is that. Oh yeah, that's Aaron Rodgers and the War Eagle. They had a bet. Aaron Rodgers is a Cal alumni, so he obviously lost a bet to his Auburn teammates.
and then
Well, I don't know
lost
about
this.
teammates after this year. His Achilles just got popped. Sad, but yeah, the funniest story of the weekend was when Auburn. It was a close battle the whole game. Cal was actually up the whole game, and the Auburn fans they were nervous because they weren't talking as much as they were at kickoff, so they were nervous. And Auburn throws that touchdown at the end, and this old Auburn fan with a cane and a hat gets in front of a full Cal section and just starts waving it, and he doesn't say a word. He's just waving it, and he won't stop. And at first, it starts with everyone going like, "Oh, get out of here, man! Like you suck." And then you hear one guy goes, Get the fuck out of here!" And it's just like, "Whoa, like okay, like relax." And then he's still waving it after the extra point. And this man, this Cal fan, who's about 30 years old, uttered a phrase that I will never forget. He went, "You keep waving that hat in my face, I'll take you from a cane to a wheelchair real quick, dude." In
Why was he
full
so mad?
serious, because this Auburn fan was waving his hat in his face, and I started bursting laughing. My dad and my brother, the people in the row below us, just like couldn't stop laughing because it was like Auburn fan, like relax, like you guys were down all game. Now you're kind of like you're an old man who's like rubbing in the face, it's like settle down. And then I was like, Cal guy, like you need to relax, like you're really gonna like beat someone up over like a football game, like relax. So that was my Berkeley experience, and you spelled Berkeley wrong. I'm just
So
noticing
wrong.
that. Oh no. You can tell that me and Zooch obviously did not go to Berkeley. We went to a state school. So
Right.
that's our excuse. Oh my goodness. What a show. What a show. Let's get into some storylines for week 3.
It's not a great, honestly, slate of games.
No,
There's a few.
I noticed that too. It I don't think there's a ranked versus ranked matchup this week.
I couldn't find one. There's a couple that were probably they were hoping would be ranked, like Tennessee, Florida, Georgia,
Yeah.
South Carolina. They were probably hoping
Yeah.
that those would be
Honest-
ranked. But yeah, there's not a ton of. There's a lot of good games next week, but this week seems kind of like a throwaway week, I guess. It's
Yeah.
probably
I mean,
why
the biggest
everyone's in.
storyline. No, go. I mean, the biggest storyline for me is honestly something that happened off the field. It's I don't know if you guys have heard. Obviously, if you're watching this show, you probably are following sports. Mel Tucker, the coach from
Yeah.
Michigan State, was fired this week after alleged sexual harassment. We'll see how the details pan out. So my top storyline is how does Michigan State respond? Because I feel like with all that's going on with them that week, with that terrible situation if it's true. Just Mel Tucker just thrown into the garbage if it's true. But they're like, this is the week that you wish you had your FCS matchup if you're Michigan State. But they got to play what probably is the top passing attack in the country in Washington, who killed them last year, who's been killing teams this year, who's going into East Lansing with a mission focused. I mean, Washington has playoff or bust, and they view Michigan as nothing but Michigan State, nothing but a bump in the road for them. So I'm going to be interested to see how Michigan State responds and see if they can at least put up a fight or are they going to roll over.
Yeah, that one's an interesting one too, because that came out when I was watching that Auburn Cal game. Like somebody tweeted about it, like breaking news, Mel Tucker, blah blah blah. And I was like, what on earth is going on here? Because it seemed like it came out of nowhere, and then like 12 hours later he was fired, but then they didn't fire him because the investigation is ongoing, and a lot of it seems like if it's
this is something that's going to get messy. This is something that's going to get really, really messy, and we're going to see it play out over the course of the next year. Yeah. The owed money thing makes it like fish. Like there's so many things about this that I'm just. This is going to be like a soap opera playing out, and it's going to be really slow and painful and drawn out. But time will tell with this scenario. Time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was the biggest thing coming into this week, just because, like we said, there's not a ton of. Like, there's a couple games that I'm saving for our weekly segments, but I just can't really think of anything. Like, Texas plays Wyoming. Like, Wyoming beat Texas Tech, so maybe that one's a little close. Maybe Texas has, like, a lackadaisical start, but, yeah, it's strange that it's week 3, and there's, like, it seems like there's meant to be good games. Like I said, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. Usually those teams are always ranked, at least at this point in the season. But like Florida with losing to Utah and South Carolina, losing to North Carolina, both in week 1, kind of threw that under the bus. But
because Florida State doesn't play Clemson until next week. This is the week where you would expect like the Florida State Clemson to be like kind of a slow week with. But then this week's been kind of, as MJF would say, mid. It's a mid slate this week.
Very extremely mid.
Oh well. Yeah, so I'm going to be tuned into that Michigan State Washington game just to see how the Spartans respond. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to say one more thing about this. You already know there's some Spartan alumni booster going, they're going to bring back D'Antonio. They're going to bring back D'Antonio.
Well, he's already
we're going to bring him back, baby. We're going to get Spartan football back.
He's already helping the guy who they named the head coach, isn't
he? Yeah, he's already in the program.
He'll be the AD there within like 5 years. He's like going on that Tom Osborne route where he like never truly leaves the program and like always has to have his input on it, and it turns into one of those things that, oh, you were a good football coach, but maybe you don't know anything outside of how to run an athletic program besides, coaching football and like making us good every so often. But
I think
I get it. Like Michigan State's a weird program because they're always little brother to Michigan and Ohio State. But they've had like some really good years and really good coaches. They made the playoff.
They made the playoff. It's so funny. It's funny. The most funny thing about Michigan State to me is that they have a football complex named after Tom Izzo. They named it after their basketball coach.
Tom, I will say that it's weird there because they have had a good football team, but they've had I think it doesn't hurt the football team obviously, but having such a good basketball program, like there was a stat at one point a few years ago where everybody who had played under Tom Izzo for 4 years had been to at least one Final Four, and he started there in the late 90s, I think. Maybe he started there in the year 2000, but it was like 6 classes or something like that every single person who had stayed all 4 years had played in a Final Four, and you don't get any better than that. Like maybe he doesn't have the national titles to back it up. He has one, but they're always a threat, I guess. So They're just
Hey,
probably looking forward to basketball season now. The
Hey, I know it's
Spartans.
a college football podcast, but same amount of natties as Calipari, so
This is true.
hot seat. Who knows? All right. Well, you want to get into the weekly segments?
We do.
All right. This is the meme matchup for week 4. I think you went first last time with your meme matchup.
I did.
I don't know. You might. I think I called last week. We might have the same one. I do think we might have the same one this week. And
Yep.
mine is Jason Eck versus the world. Idaho versus Cal. Oh boy, we have Jason Eck. And if you know anything about Jason Eck, he is like if you put ChatGPT in, hey, give me a good football coach who coaches in like a small college town. That's Jason Eck. And for much as I make fun of his appearance and how he's tweeting about we need to find some players at hashtag Eagle High when he's at Eagle High School or Rocky Mountain High School at 6 a.m. posting Twitter. He's a good coach. And Cal's offense didn't look good. I was at the game. Cal's offense didn't look good. This could be a defining win for the Idaho Vandals. I think the only thing that could have made this game better is if they were playing in the Kibbe Dome. Was that your meme matchup, or you got another one?
That was mine too. Just all of the.
That should tell you how big of a meme matchup this is. When it's a double meme matchup. Is this game on national television? I'm gonna look this up, and hopefully it is.
Let's see here. I will be tuning into it. It's on the Pac-12 network, so.
Oh, I'm West Coast. I can watch that.
And I was seeing if there's a line for it, but I don't see one. The ESPN matchup predictor has Cal at a 95.6% chance of winning. So
they have
is Cal's quarterback Ben Finley? Is he related to Ryan Finley?
I think so. But so the thing was in the game, they took him out the game. They're playing the TCU transfer now. I don't know what his name is.
It has to. Ben Finley has to be his brother. They're both from Arizona, and Ben Finley was at NC State, so that has to be his. And he looks just like him.
I will say, Ben Finley is like long, like 6'4", 210. Like that's the Ryan Finley build.
Ben Finley will get drafted in like the 4th round by some like.
Yes,
I don't know.
He will make a total of like $1 million in the NFL playing like 3 seasons.
But yeah, that's my matchup because I think that. I mean, Cal should win, but I could see this being like 24-21 going into the 4th quarter, and Jason Eck will have the players.
He's gonna have 4s up, yeah. Jason Eck's gonna have those 4s up. He's gonna have his visor. He's gonna get that hair perfectly pomaded back. He's gonna be wearing the Matt Rule schmuck. I'm telling you what, man. As much as I don't know who Idaho's quarterback is, but he's supposed to be one of the best in the FCS, and they got a first-team All-American at receiver. Well, Idaho could win this. Idaho could 100% win this.
Giovanni McCoy, who it says his class is still a freshman, but that makes no sense because he's been there since 2021. So maybe he's just broken the system. Excuse me, broken the system.
Probably COVID. Oh, you know what? They're FCS, so he got the COVID year when they played in spring and the red shirt.
Okay,
so he's a red shirt freshman.
He had a good season last year, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks. This year he's off to he's completing 72% of his passes for 4 touchdowns. So it could be a long night for Justin Wilcox in the game.
If Justin Wilcox loses this game, you have to fire him. You have to fire him. It's so funny to me that at one point Justin Wilcox was offered the Oregon job, said no, and then Mario Cristobal took it. Mario Cristobal just beat a ranked team at the University of Miami, and now he's ranked going into ACC play. Justin Wilcox is still going 7-5, playing in the Redbox Bowl every year.
Yeah, he probably should have taken that Nike money when he got the opportunity.
Justin Wilcox. Justin. I feel like Justin Wilcox and Scott Frost would be friends. Did they know each other at Oregon when they were at Oregon?
I'm sure they crossed paths.
They just seem like the same person to me. Like they just seem like nice guys who like have just a unrational emotional attachment to a school that they want to help, and it's just not a good fit. But both sides want it to work so bad that they can't quit each other. I think that's
Exactly.
what the Justin Wilcox situation is turning into uh, at Cal. But yeah, that's a double me matchup right there. It's going to be a big one. I'm going to make sure to record it. If you don't have Pac-12 Network, I'm sure the Sickos Committee will be posting on their Twitter if this game gets close. Yeah, well,
I
let's get
have to check out the highlights.
let's get into the last segment, the high-low Buffalo, and the high-low Buffalo this week is going to be quarterback stocks after week 2. It's been a lot of good quarterback play. There's been a lot of bad quarterback play so far this week. So we're going to be talking about which players have elevated their status since the beginning of the year, lowered their status, and status that's still kind of unsure. Zooch, do you want to kick it off with yours, man?
I will, and I think the high to me is pretty obviously Shador Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he
A
had,
great high. I was gonna put
people.
him, but I figured that you were gonna pick him, so I was like, shit, I gotta pick someone else, man.
Yeah, his is weird because he was like pretty decently highly recruited. I mean, he
He was
wasn't
a
as highly
3-star,
recruited.
yeah.
Yeah, like as highly recruited as some other guys. But he is, with how he's been playing, I said it the other day in the group chat, he's going to be like a top 5 pick. Like I still
Mm-hmm.
see some people who have him behind, you know, Michael Penix. So that I kind of get, but I think he's overtaken a lot of
Drake,
guy like, yeah, like Drake May. Like I think that,
I think he's making a play for that second QB position hard. Like, I think
yeah,
it's Caleb Williams by a mile. And then it's like a group of like 4 guys who are battling for that spot. And there's also, if you're Shador Sanders, you're probably making a couple mil NIL. There's been reports. Mel Kiper said if he waits 1 year and waits for Caleb Williams to get drafted, he will be the consensus predicted #1 overall pick going into the 2025 draft.
right. He could just wait around. Like, they'll have more players in there next year. He could even have a better season next year, depending on how this one ends. So that
Mm-hmm.
is what he's done so far. Is he is now? I don't know. I think people who really follow college football knew who he was last year because of his dad. Now
Mm-hmm.
I think he is kind of branching off a little bit. Like I think you're starting like obviously people knew Deion Sanders. People older than us really knew Deion Sanders, but I think you're really going to start seeing people in a Shador Sanders, like because
Mm-hmm.
Colorado jerseys look cool anyways, especially like the white ones. I think you're
Yeah.
really going to start seeing people in those, and he's going to start, becoming one of those athletes that like a lot of kids see and like, oh, I like him, like how he plays. He has
Mm-hmm.
like the look of like he looks very marketable. I guess is what I'm
He's
trying to
got the
say. Like,
swagger, but
yeah,
then he's like, but then like it's like he's a spitting image of Dion because he has that swagger on the field, like that cocky, but like not like douchey. Like it's it's
right,
it, it's not even arrogance because like when you hear him talk, like he is very like self-aware. Like it's not like he's being super like, oh, look at me, look at me. He's so like, yeah, I know I'm good. I know his team's good, and we got a goal, and how I do it is how I do it. And I
right, and he's
respect the
like,
hell
I
out of him
mean,
for it.
yeah, and the biggest thing I think is he's likable. Like if you even look at Deion Sanders, like I get how Deion Sanders would put people off because he is brash and stuff. But like the video of Deion Sanders dancing with that old white lady in the locker room that she let her do like the kickoff like for the spring game and stuff. He will go into a community and it's personable within the community. And a lot of coaches aren't like that. Like
Hmm.
you get some coaches who don't care about anything outside it. Like they'll say like, "Oh, thank you, whoever nation, for coming out of the game and supporting us," blah blah blah. But he is like actually out in the community, uh, doing stuff.
Hmm. All right.
Birdie's trying
Oh,
to make a
we got a
appearance.
birdie appearance. All right, yeah, birdie. Hey, birdie, you could probably catch better than the receivers at Nebraska. Don't worry with your.
Put their paws.
Yeah.
What about
All
you?
right.
Who is your high for the week?
So my high is actually a more dark horse high. It's Cameron Ward at Washington State. I think this guy,
Oh, that's a good one.
Cameron Ward, has played himself into being drafted. I think if you follow Pac-12 ball, you know Cam Ward, incarnate world transfer. And he beat Wisconsin. I think that was like his coming out party. Is that I think the nation's starting to take notice that Cam Ward's legit, and a lot of good quarterbacks in the Pac-12. Cam Ward's right there with him. I mean, it's just a bummer. I think if Cam Ward was in a conference like the Big Ten, the ACC, I think he's top three quarterback. If you put Cam Ward in the Big Ten right now, I think he's probably the third or fourth best quarterback behind McCarthy. And then you got Drew Aller and McCord at Ohio State. Like Cam Ward would be some people probably say Cam Ward's a better college quarterback than even McCarthy. I mean, I looked up his stats. He's completing 70% of his passes. He's got 5 tutties to no interceptions. He's got a
He's been killing it.
159 passer rating on the year. So watch out, Cam Ward. The Pac-12 is good this year, and I'm excited. I guess I'll go with my low then, and I hate to do this because I am a Boise fan, and I do think it's going to get better. But Taylon Green,
He was my
I
low
don't want to
too.
use the. He's your low too, so we're double.
Yeah.
And I don't think Taylon Green's bad. I think Taylon Green's very good, and I think he's going to be a future drafted quarterback. He has, for whatever reason, whether it be offensive system, whether it just be, hey, we've played 2 really good teams, whether it be his top receiver getting hurt, has underperformed stat wise and win wise this year. I think because I mean, when you don't have good stats, but if he's winning, it's kind of like the Jimmy G. It's like he's getting wins and all that matters. But if he was getting stats and let's say Boise lost to UCF like 42-35, it's like, well, Taylor threw for 4 touchdowns, like he's doing all he can, But I just haven't seen that. And I'm not putting too much on him because I think it's just the whole offense seems a little bit out of cahoots, minus the offensive line. So I think Taylon Green, and I do expect him to be better, but Taylon Green's my low. He has underperformed his expectations.
He has underperformed, and I said, and got quite a bit of blowback from people coming in. I said, I think that at a lot of points last year, once he came in to start for Boise State, we played a lot of bad teams that don't have great defense. I mean, Nevada, for example, is legitimately probably the worst team in Division One. They just lost to Idaho by like 40. But he had,
watch out,
Nevada,
watch out, Cal.
Colorado State, North Texas wasn't that great. Like, there's nobody on the schedule besides maybe Fresno who kind of shut him down.
And those were 2 close, and those were his 2 close games was Fresno and SDSU.
Yeah, and even the SDSU one, they ended up for some reason in the second half couldn't figure out how to stop a read option. That's basically all we ran in the second half. But I said coming in, I think he might struggle a little bit because he hadn't started a lot of games. He has another offensive coordinator, which will make 3 in a span of a calendar year, if you really look at it. Like, he had Tim Plow, Dirk Cutter came in.
Tim Plow.
And now he has Bush Hamden. So that's 3 of those. And I don't know, it's just like he was never a guy who was really going to complete like 75% of his passes. He just never, even last year, he had a lot of games that, was 60%. Like, I don't know how many games he had that were 70% higher. That's just not, he's not like a dink and dunk type of guy. But this year, he has 1 pass of over 20 yards. And it was the Washington game, like midway through it, when on that first touchdown drive Boise State had. So he does, he's in the wheelhouse now. So you had a lot of hype coming in. People were really excited. He made some great plays last year, played really, really well for a redshirt freshman. But by signing these NIL deals and all that kind of stuff, now the pressure is on.
You raise the expectations. No, you raise the expectations.
You raise the expectations. So it's fair to me. Now you have to face the criticism. Last year, you didn't really get that much criticism in any of the games because you're redshirt freshman. You weren't expected to play, blah, blah, blah. now you have kind of, whether whether you thought about it or not, when you take NIL deals and are doing commercials about getting free trucks, stuff like that, then the pressure is on you. And I think that's fair. So I think that he does. And like you said, we played, at least we know Washington should be pretty good. UCF, we'll see. I still think I think they can win like 9 games. I don't think they'll
Yeah,
be
I think they're an
terrible.
8-9 win team. I think
But
these next 3 games are going to be very telling because you got an FCS team who you should whoop and 2 FBS schools who, even though you're 0-2 on paper, I mean, Memphis, they might be underdogs by like maybe less than a field goal, or do you think they'll be? I don't think Memphis is very
I
good
think
this
they'll be
year.
underdogs to Memphis. I'm not exactly sure who Memphis.
Not
I think Memphis plays Navy tomorrow, actually. So Thursday, because I think this will come out Thursday. Maybe it comes out Friday, but Memphis plays Navy on Thursday of this week. I don't know who they play after that. I think they'll probably be favorites, Memphis, but we should be favorites over San
the
Diego
rest of
State.
probably the
So
rest of our schedule. Like the rest of the Mountain West, they should be
I
favored.
think so. Depending on how, maybe not at Fresno,
Fresno, yeah.
that line will be interesting, and we'll see with how Air Force is at the end of the season. But I still think we'll be favorites there, even if we had a few losses and they only had one. But yeah, he isn't completing 50% of his passes. Two of his 3 touchdowns are screens, I believe, to Ashton Genty, and that's back to your point of, besides Ashton Genty, no one on the offense has really done anything.
The O-line has looked average, which if you're Boise State, you'd take after the poor O-line played the last couple years. But the offensive line, the O-line looks fine, and Ashton Genty looks like a draft pick. So if your offensive line is fine and your running back looks like a draft pick, all that's left is the passing attack.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the criticism needs to come in. And like I said before, I don't think this is going to be Talon forever. But I think if he doesn't get it snapped around quick, it might cost Andy his job. Like if he doesn't get it turned around, there's going to be a change in the football program at Boise. And I think he'll get better. I'm expecting him to kill it in Mountain West play. But if he doesn't, oh boy, will the comments roll in.
They will, and that's part of being the starter at a place that people take,
football seriously.
Yeah, they're not Alabama or Notre Dame, but it is.
This isn't this isn't a Cal Poly. Sorry for the listeners who went to Cal Poly. This isn't a Cal Poly. This ain't. This isn't even a San Jose State. Like, people care and are invested and donate money and fill out stadiums,
and get kidney stones because of the game.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
So
for those who don't know, Zooch got a kidney stone. He had a kidney stone, and partially was caused by the electricity at Boise State.
It was a kidney stone from a previous kidney stone experience, and I was foretold that it might fall off and start causing me pain. And sure enough, it came on Monday, and immediately when I woke up, I was like, I've quarreled with this before. I know what this pain means. But moving on to my Buffalo, this one was kind of.
Oh my God! Sorry, I almost just sneezed. Whoever's watching on the video right now just saw the worst face ever. Oh my goodness! Someone put pepper just up my nose. Whoa, that was whoa! Okay. This show's been all over the place. I really hope anyone who's listening. Oh man, I hope people who are listening are just doing it on the podcast and not watching the video. And Zeus, just get into your Buffalo. Let's get out of here, man.
My Buffalo, which is a weird one because he has had a lot of hype, but Sam Hartman is like if Notre Dame keeps on that, like if they have a hard schedule, but if they win out, I think he might win the Heisman Trophy. Like,
if they went out and make the playoffs, maybe.
Yeah,
Caleb Williams
and stuff.
It's his until Utah. It's Caleb Williams Heisman until he loses a game, because he's not going to play bad in the game this year. But it's literally his Heisman until he loses the game. But no, Sam Hartman. I mean, we talked about it in our second show. He throws a pretty ball. He's playing well, man.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. We'll have to revisit these quarterbacks in like end of October and see how they're really doing once they start playing a little bit more of the harder teams on their schedule. And same thing with we went with the head coaches last week on High-Low Buffalo. So it's going to be an interesting. We're almost a month. After next week, we'll be 3 weeks in, so we'll almost be a month in. After this weekend, we'll be 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
So after next week, we'll be a month in and have, I think, a better idea of who's going to be good, who's going to be bad. We're still in that weird feeling out process now where, yeah, Michigan should be good, probably will be good, but also they played UNLV and East Carolina. So I'm excited to get to where they're playing, not that the Big Ten for the most part is good by any means, but teams more on their level. So,
yeah, and that's a very good point. A lot about these players and these quarterbacks will tell as the season progresses, as they play some stronger comp. My Buffalo is TCU's Chandler Morris. This is a person who was supposed to have a Max Duggan type year, and I think people looked at that Colorado game, especially me, and was like, "Man, this kid pooped the bed. Man, Chandler Morris sucks." And I don't think he's as good as Max Duggan. But he played well at what was an FCS school. He played like how Chandler Morris was supposed to play, 80% completion, couple touchdowns, distributing it well, running that TCU kind of like semi dink and dunk where it's a lot of screens, quick hitting, precision. And Chandler Morris, I think this is why he's my Buffalo, because he could morph into what Max Duggan was, like this gamer who could ball out and do everything right. And can't believe I'm about to say this. I think he could also veer into Zach Maynard territory, if you remember him, where he's just kind of like the quarterback that seems to have it all, but just can't put it together and is just they're an 8-win team, like how Zach Maynard's teams used to be at Cal. So that's why Chandler Morris is kind of in that middle spot for me. Like his season in Big 12 play I wouldn't be surprised if he gets second team Big 12 behind Quinn Ewers, and I wouldn't be surprised if TCU at the end of the year goes, "Hey, we're gonna have a quarterback competition going into next year." So we'll see with Chandler Morris, son of Chad.
Yeah, son of Chad. Who he is, Chad Morris is somewhere, by the way. I can't remember where I saw this the other day, but he is doing some type of coaching role at God knows where, but he is back.
Speechless. I mean, yeah. Chad Morris. I wish he was back. Him, Rich Rod. They're a dying Jim McElwain. They're a dying breed of college coaches, man. They really are. It's just from another time. Okay, and I'm going to end this. Oh, go for it.
It is that kind of started getting famous from mid 2005 or the mid 2000s up until about 2015. Like that 10-year span of some of these people who got really good gigs, whether it be Butch Jones at Tennessee, Jim McElwain.
I mean, shoot, Sonny Dykes was in this kind of meme category until last year.
He was. He was, and it's just a hilarious and it all started with Charlie Weiss. Never forget that.
Oh my gosh! So that was actually gonna be the last thing I asked for the show. Would you rather, if you were a recruit, play for Charlie Weiss or Charlie Strong?
It would be Charlie Strong. I think Charlie.
You couldn't play for Charlie Weiss?
No, I watched what he did at Notre Dame, and I could
Charlie Weiss looks like if Rodney Dangerfield ate too many fried fish, ate too much fried fish. Well, that's what he looks like.
His Charlie Weiss Jr. I think Charlie Weiss is a good offensive coordinator. I mean, maybe part of that was he played with Tom Brady, or he got to coach Tom Brady when he was on Indianapolis or New England, because his stints at Kansas City didn't go that well. His stint at Florida didn't go well. His stint at Kansas, the Jayhawks, didn't go well. Notre Dame started out okay, didn't end well. So I don't know, and I'm pretty sure he coached somewhere else as the OC, but I'm not sure. But like his son is the OC at Ole Miss, Charlie Weiss, or co-OC. I think Lane Kiffin still does a lot of the
Come to the SIP.
play calling there.
The lane train,
It-
baby.
I would like if I was like looking at how both of their careers, I would have to go with Charlie Strong because
Yeah.
I think Charlie Strong kind of got done a little bit dirty by like I think maybe it would have came off the rails at Texas anyways, but
Mm-hmm.
Texas was in that mode of like 3 years and you're done when
Yeah.
they fired him, and it didn't go that well for him at South Florida. I know he just got fired there not that long ago, but it got worse at South Florida after he left. So maybe he wasn't the real issue. But it would have I would go with Charlie Strong just because he seems more motivating, I guess.
That's fair. Well, for those who listened to the last couple minutes, thank you for allowing me and Zooch to rant about non-coherent stuff that has no real no real push or pull into anything that happens in the modern day college football world. Thank you for listening. Zooch, you got anything else?
Not much, just ready for this weekend to start, see how everything goes. I'm sure we'll have an upset or two that we'll be laughing about. We have to I don't know who Nebraska plays this week, but I'm going to be keeping an eye out on that game to see how close it is for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week. And Brian Ferentz, you better get those 25 points. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.